Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the one, the only Pecker Dupree. Now, 95% of you don't know who I'm talking about with this. I'll talk about it at the end of the video, so stick around if you're an avid Spawncast watcher or something like that, because you are very familiar with this person. But we're here to talk about Pokemon, and strangely enough, I first started playing Pokemon with Pecker Dupree when we were like 12 or 13 years old. He had Pokemon Blue, I had Pokemon Red, and many memories were made playing those games, but you know, as time has gone on, I've definitely not appreciated Pokemon quite as much as I used to when I was younger. I felt like they've been kind of just half-assing it, you know, graphically speaking, gameplay-wise speaking. The games just seem a couple steps behind what every other game is doing. And there are similar games of monster catching variety and monster battling variety that do have nice graphics and do look like a, you know, complete game, whereas the Pokemon games, especially the mainline ones, when it comes to graphics, I don't know. I get it. Graphics aren't everything. I understand that. But it is funny because now Nintendo Switch 2 fanboys are all about graphics now that their system is more powerful and, you know, more capable of playing the modern games. Now the graphics talk is important, but, you know, with the Switch 1, it wasn't quite as important now. Things that make you go, But as a Pokemon non-enjoyer, I guess you could call me a hater, I watched the Pokemon Presents presentation today. Most of this stuff was of absolutely no interest to me until we got to the end. Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves. The Gen 10 for the Pokemon franchise was finally unveiled after much discussion and much speculation. And I gotta say, I think it looks pretty decent. So I want to talk about this with you guys today. Talk about the initial trailer. Obviously, I'm not a huge Pokemon guy when it comes to the modern stuff, so I will probably say things incorrectly. But as someone who's kind of fallen out of love with the franchise and just, you know, I haven't bought a Pokemon game in quite a while, I feel like this could potentially bring me back because it actually looks like a certain level of polish is going into this, a certain level of graphical capability to where it looks more like a modern game. Now, first and foremost, I'm not saying this is one of the best looking games I've ever seen or something like that. It still has the Pokemon sort of style. When you look at the Pokemon themselves within the world, the characters within the world, it still looks very similar to the more modern Pokemon games that we've been getting recently, which you could say that's art style. You could say that that's this, that, or the other. I do somewhat understand it because of the amount of Pokemon that there are that can be offered within this game. So I get it. You don't want to completely scratch the graphical style that you originally have, but you know, it looks decent enough character model wise, but it's more so like about the world for me. The worlds of Pokemon have just looked so crusty and like it completely takes you out of the game. At least it does for me with a lot of these things when you're seeing all of these sort of environments that don't feel alive. You know, Pokemon at its core is a game that kind of relies on falling into this world and these different regions that you are in. And, you know, when you are talking about the original Pokemon games, obviously there are graphical limitations and stuff like that, so you're using your imagination. But when we made the jump to consoles, when we made the jump to stronger consoles, and we've seen some of the games that have come out on these consoles, like obviously you kind of got to step up your game a little bit. And I've always felt like the Pokemon Company didn't do that. But looking at these environments, like, yeah, very similar to what you would see in other Pokemon games. It's like, here's a grassy area, here's a mountainous area, here's a sandy area, here's a lava area, but they look more alive. they look so much better than what we've seen with previous Pokemon games. And I think that there are lots of things that the Pokemon Company hasn't really revealed with this game yet. One of the bigger teasers was the fact that there's going to be underwater stuff. They teased that at the end of the video. They showed a lovely water. I'm a sucker for water in video games. Like, you remember that dude on the Wii U who used to like rate water in video games on the Wii U like message board system? I forget what they called it on the system, but like he would make posts about water. Like, I'm a sucker for nice looking water in a video game, and I thought that water looked very nice. But our character actually went under the water, and underneath the water there was more Pokemon to discover. And I was like, well, wait a minute. That's a pretty interesting wrinkle within this, because now you are expanding kind of the size and the scope of the game. You're not just restricted to landfall when it comes to this. Now you're getting another environment within this game itself. And, you know, I do think that, you know, the characters and the Pokemon kind of look a little, at times, they look a little bit out of place on these landscapes, because the landscapes themselves are much more detailed, and then the Pokemon and your basic characters have a much more simpler art style. But I feel like that's something that will be blended together as time goes on. There was some decent looking lighting, there were some decent looking effects going on. Like, you know, it's not one of those ugly ass Unreal Engine 5 Pokemon demos that you see, which, I mean, you know, at first glance, I guess those look kind of cool, but the more you look at them, the more kind of weird it looks. It doesn't look anything like that, but it's definitely a step, a large step, I will say, in the right direction. Now, one thing worth noting, though, this is a 2027 game, and that to me is kind of interesting, that this game will not be releasing until 2027, because I feel like most of us anticipated it being 2026 to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Pokemon. That was kind of the whole point of this presentation. They had a bunch of crap and celebrations for the 30th anniversary. Most of it I don't care about at all. Honestly, all of it I didn't care about at all. They do have Gale of Darkness for the GameCube coming to Nintendo Switch Online next month. So, you know, that's pretty cool, I guess. But definitely the 2027 release date was a little bit interesting. Because I feel like that should have been this game has a graphical style where I think, you know, it can be one of the biggest Pokemon games of all time. It looks attractive for anyone, you know, even at the base level, someone who doesn't care about Pokemon, you can be like, oh, you know what, that looks decent. Does it look like the richest company in the world and the richest IP in the world? Not really, but it looks a hell of a lot better. It looks a hell of a lot more decent. So I'll go ahead and say it. You can go ahead and put pen to paper on this, folks. I will check out Pokemon Winds and Waves, or Pokemon Winds or Pokemon Waves. I'm not buying both versions. I think I like Waves more than I like Wind. Like Wind, I don't know. Wind kind of sucks. It like tears down your electrical stuff and makes a lot of noise and like rattles your windows and shit. Waves are cool because you just go to the beach and then you hear the waves and stuff. Like, yeah, you could die in the undertow or something like that. But I'm going to buy this game. I'm going to buy this game because I like what I see. I know there's people crashing out over the starter Pokemon, willing to die for the cutesy starter Pokemon. People are weird, dog. Even Brett was like, I will kill for this Pokemon. And I'm like, dude, go outside or something. Like, what is wrong with you? But yeah, you know, pleasantly surprised with Pokemon Winds and Waves. And coming from me and kind of my mantra with Pokemon for the past, you know, 4+ years, I think that says a lot. So that's what's going on with Pokemon for me. If that's all you care about, thank you for watching this video. I'll catch you on the next one. But Pecker Dupree was in my residence. So we had linked up. I didn't talk to this cat probably like 10+ years. We just kind of lost touch. He's got a family and stuff like that, all that sort of stuff. He randomly got a new Facebook account for work. and I'm friends with his mom on Facebook, and I saw it, and so I just left a comment, like I wasn't gonna pry, but you know, he responded right back. We added each other, we called each other, we started talking on the phone. He was up in the Northeast for work, and yesterday he was going back home, and he was like, "What's your address? Do you live near the highway?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I live right off the highway." So I gave him my address. He's like, "Dude, I gotta come through there anyways. Like, you want me to stop by? Is that cool?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, dude." So he came by. I haven't seen him. God, I haven't seen him probably since mid-20s. Probably like when I was like 25, maybe 26. He had came up to North Carolina to hang out. But yeah, man, it was a good time. We only had like, 30 minutes because he had to get back home. He still had a long drive ahead of him. But it was good to see him, man. And it was like, that's one of those cats where it's like, men have this thing where it's like, you don't talk with like a friend for a very long time, but then when you see each other or you talk to each other again, you pick up right where you left off. It's like no time went in between. Like, yeah, you got to catch up on life and all that stuff. But yeah, man, it was a good time. I wish he could have stayed longer, but obviously, he had to get back home to his family and stuff like that. But yeah, good time. So there you go. Pecker Dupree is a real person. All of the stories that I tell are real life stories. I just have a weird fucking life, and I've done a lot of weird and stupid stuff, folks. A lot of it. But I've calmed down with that and in my older age. But anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Give me your thoughts on Pokemon Winds and Waves in the comments down below. Later.